Good morning, everyone. Energy will take center stage at a meeting of provincial and territorial leaders today in Newfoundland and Labrador. Some say there is a chance for a breakthrough on interprovincial disputes over pipelines to carry Alberta oil and gas to market. The wild card seems to be our new Premier, Rachel Notley.
My job is to make sure that we can grow the prosperity in Alberta as well as across the country, and so we're going to continue to do that. But there's no question that our new government does see that there's a close tie between environmental record, a good strong integrity there, as in order to establish more access to markets. So that's maybe a bit of a change, and we'll be working on that going forward.
The point I always make is that Indigenous peoples have to be included every step of the way in the development and design of any energy strategy, especially with the Chilcotin case that's been recently done by the Supreme Court of Canada, which recognizes Aboriginal rights and title. And the message that I always tell to the provinces and territories: if you want economic certainty, you want economic surety in your provincial territories, you have to basically include First Nations people every step of the way. And before you build anything, build a relationship with Indigenous peoples.
Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall says he plans to address his concern that the rest of the country is viewing oil and gas development as a liability. 3 U of C researchers are collaborating with the University of Manitoba to study the impacts and consequences of a potential oil spill in the Arctic on or under the ice. The research will take place at the soon-to-be-built Churchill Marine Observatory beside Canada's only Arctic deep-water port. They will be looking at ways of detecting oil in ice-covered water, studying the impact an oil spill would have on the ecosystem, and coming up with ways to clean up an Arctic oil spill.
These are conditions that are pretty different than most of the oceans and the coastlines where we typically worry about oil spills. It is largely a pristine environment, and it's an environment that Canadians are concerned about and want to stay pristine and want to protect.
The Churchill Marine Observatory was recently awarded $32 million in federal funding through the Canada Foundation for Innovation. The Calgary Women's Immigrant Association getting a $216,000 boost thanks to the federal government. The money will go into a 3-year project aimed at getting newcomers jobs in our city.
They're eager and willing to be part of our community, and they often need that first job. They need that first step. And that's part of what Calgary Immigrant Women is doing here, is they're doing some amazing programs here where they kind of do job placements. And I believe that skills program that we're training there has over 90% success rate in actually placing them with jobs at the end of it.
Making sure that organizations that understand their communities, like the Immigrant Women's Association here in Calgary, can integrate these women into the economy by giving them great skills.
The project is specifically targeted at jobs in the food industry by overcoming barriers such as limited access to childcare, training, and mentoring. Saying the country has, quote, worked its way through a mild contraction, Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz says he's confident economic growth will be fueled by exports in the second half of the year. Poloz says Canada has not slipped into a recession despite cutting the key interest rate for the second time this year.
3 factors behind this downgrade. The first, Canadian oil producers have lowered their long-term outlook for global oil prices and have cut their plans for investment spending significantly more than previously announced. Second, China's economy is undergoing a structural transition to slower domestic-driven growth, which is reducing Canadian exports of a range of other commodities. And third, Canada's non-resource exports have also faltered in recent months. While this is partly due to the first quarter setback in the U.S. economy, it's still a puzzle that merits further study.
Yesterday's rate cut, 2.5%, saw Canada's big banks respond by reducing their prime rate to 2.7%.